Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the greatest directors we've seen in the recent history of film, while maintaining an almost Kubrick-like atmosphere, as well as helming some of the finest talent in the industry today. This makes him a master of cinema. From his rich and beautiful start in Hard 8 to his last spectacle, The Phantom Thread, which potentially marked Daniel Day-Lewis's finest performance, Paul Thomas Anderson has covered a vast range of subjects and time periods to create one of the most extravagant filmographies that few have been able to compare themselves to. But through these films, one stands out to be the least talked about and tends to sit in the shades when it comes to discussing this filmography. For this picture, Punch Drunk Love, released in 2002, Paul Thomas Anderson picked up a surprising lead actor, Adam Sandler, who is known by almost everyone to be nothing more than an annoying singer-songwriter persona, whose films all adhere to the same formula. However, when it came to the role of Barry Egan, Sandler somehow managed to put this all aside and paint as a perfectly dark analysis of the pain and heartbreak of anxiety. I've always been someone with extreme anxiety. Whether it's in a bar, party, work, or even just being with family, this is something that makes a huge impact on my life. The chest-aching, sickening feeling that one gets who experiences these issues is unbearable at times. Barry Egan is a potentially very extreme case of this compared to the general population, but nevertheless, this is still an extremely relatable film for me. While with most characters Anderson has done in the past, usually he writes bizarre and distant realities that which we all take a thrill through. In this case, however, we are taken to a modern-day Los Angeles, which Anderson paints an almost nightmarish portrait of. The first time we encounter this in the film, Egan witnesses a horrifying car accident which is surreally followed by the disposal of a harmonium outside the road. This throughout the film becomes a symbol of conquering his anxiety and plays a very important role in the story. Throughout the first several minutes in the film, we witness Egan's anxiety and social awkwardness come heavily into play of his life. Whether it's awkwardly trying to give a customer service rep his home phone number, to having to speak to 7 different sisters throughout his day at work who are very insulting and mean to Barry, or when he smashes his sister's porch door with a hammer, he is constantly angry with himself. He is also a very lonely individual, who after seeking therapy calls a sex hotline to speak with someone who he can talk to. This eventually results in a breaking point for Barry, as he deals with a group of brothers working as a front for a mattress firm. Before all of this, however, we meet Elizabeth, played by Emily Watson. Although she may be a little more fit for society, she is in a sense damaged in her own way. Because of this, she finds Barry attractive. Being a co-worker of his sister's, Barry is hesitant about meeting Emily at first, but he eventually agrees. Before taking her out, he starts receiving threatening phone calls from the hotline caller, which he ignores repeatedly. This results in an almost hilarious montage of being constantly bothered by this, his co-workers, his sister, and Elizabeth all at once. As he continues to run from the situation, it all heads for a nightmarish twist in which Barry finds himself way over his head, heading into a great financial loss and a trip to the hospital for Elizabeth. The blossoming of this relationship is a huge shift in Barry's life, as the film does both a narrative and illustrative job making this apparent using color, specifically in Barry's blue suit. This symbolizes the nature of his embodiment of an anxiety-ridden catalyst routinely clashing against Elizabeth's warming presence symbolized in reds and purples. This breaks, however, after a strangely funny foreplay and off-camera lovemaking when the two are in white robes, giving a moment of almost resurrected peacefulness as they have both realized they are now alone in the world.
Thank you. I'm looking at your face and I just want to smash it. I just want to fucking smash it with a sledgehammer and squeeze it. You're so pretty.
I want to chew your face and I want to scoop out your eyes and I want to eat them and chew them and suckle them.
Okay. This is funny.
Now, I'm not usually somebody who plays into the symbolism of colors in a narrative form of any kind, but the use of blotches of color and the transitions and the almost noir look of the film at times gives the argument a strong case. Towards the end of the film, Barry walks away from this final confrontation with the men responsible for all of his grief triumphant, playing his harmonium fully now. Like Barry, we as people can fight through our anxiety and grief as best as we possibly can. It's a process that for many people takes years to fully conquer. It takes therapy, research, and hard work to create a reality for yourself where these problems are manageable. For a society that relies on anti-anxiety medication, often in the same drug family that causes some of the highest numbers of deaths in the history of the drug epidemic, this film is an inspiring one. Putting the next to heavy hitters in P.T. Anderson's filmography like There Will Be Blood and The Master isn't a seemingly very frequent occurrence. Being one of its lowest rated films on Rotten Tomatoes, it's frequently glossed over. It helms one of Adam Sandler's best and most honest performances of his career, nominating him a Golden Globe. As I am someone who's dealt with very similar scenarios, as Barry does in this film, I find it very relatable. I hope this analysis inspires those like-minded individuals to seek out and enjoy this spectacle with their own eyes.
So here we go.